Now on the bicycle front, back in 1971, Oregon passed the first transportation bill called the Bike Bill. And it said that 1% of transportation spending, a minimum, has to be spent on bikes and pedestrians, and that bike and pedestrian facilities have to be included in new and reconstruction projects for roadways. And that led to Portland actually putting together a bicycle task force. So we've been doing some level of bike stuff since the 70s. So one takeaway is people often say, oh, Portland, you've done so much, we can never be like Portland. And what I say is we've been at it for a really long time, okay? We've been at it for longer than other cities. So you gotta stay with it because it's a continuum, and Portland's just ahead of a lot of cities. And at that time, we did a number of bike events, like a bike commute day with Governor Goldschmidt and a few bike route signs on streets. And we had a commissioner who had just started, who was a state representative who had become a city commissioner, and his name was Earl Blumenauer. And this is Earl, and many of you know he's a congressman now, and he's become one of the nation's leaders of the livability movement. Bicycling and neighborhood livability and transit and safety all became his platform around which he built his political career. So he was the one who hired me to come and make a difference in Portland. And we also had a new advocacy group called the Bicycle Transportation Alliance. So all of these things, the history that led to our transit line and our waterfront park and our Pioneer Square and our regional urban growth boundary and our early bicycle history is all the building blocks upon which we were able to create the bikeway system that we've created. But at the time, we had almost no bikeway infrastructure. So this is the early 90s, and most of our roads look like this. Very constrained urban environments with almost no space for bicycles, if any space. And we had some bike racks, but they weren't terribly usable. And the business community said to me, well, we'll put in more bike racks when we have a big demand for bicycles and hardly anybody's using them. And I would show them pictures like this and say, well, it's kind of hard to get to the bike rack because you have to climb over some cars. That's a bit of a problem. Or this one, you really can't fit bikes very easily, and you really can't put bikes on this one, and this one either. And boy, this one in particular on the third floor of the parking garage behind the dumpster is not terribly usable. And the business community said, you know, you're asking, when people use them, we'll put in more bike racks. And they likened bicycles to a toy. And so another response I got was, well, what are you going to make us put in next? Ski racks? Toy boxes? So that's how they thought of it. It's my daughter when she's a baby. So we had a long way to go, and it was a very challenging period where we had a lot of media resistance, a lot of negative stories about how we were trying to put in all this bike stuff. And that was my first day on the job, basically. It was like, holy cow, what have I gotten myself into? Because on the first day of the job, the Bicycle Transportation Alliance, the advocacy group, announced they were suing the city for not complying with that 1971 law about putting bike lanes on all the streets. And so that lawsuit was announced the day of my very first job, the very first day on the job, and this is a picture that was taken to capture my reaction. Great first day on the job, huh?